What's up, kid? Don't even have a name for you. I thought of a couple of names for you. Rico. That was one I thought of a long time ago. Uchi. The more I say that one, the less I like it. Tomo? Tomi? Tom? Right? It's kind of a... Got a lot of important individuals with that name. Don't know yet. I haven't really thought about your name yet. So, I guess I'll just call you, I'll call you, me, Meep. I'll call you, I haven't thought of what I'm going to call you yet. I think a while back I had a name, but I don't remember it anymore. So I'm about to start work. I just barely finished my first full year at the current job I have, which is at Otema University. So I'm about to start my second year. And work's always been an interesting thing because it's always been on one half of it was to provide for you and your mom. Money, right? You got to provide money. You got to get bread on the table. You've got to get cloth on your body. You got to get a comfortable place to relax, rest, right? All those necessities for life. So, on the one hand, it's just I need something that will allow me to provide that, but then also I need something that will allow me to be happy on an individual level. Meaning my interests and desires and emotions are being satisfied. Now you can't go full blast in one direction or the other, right? Because if you go full blast and just providing, then you yourself become less and less defined, and that's unhealthy. But if you go full blast on the individual, then obviously I don't provide for you or Amy or anyone, and I'm alone, right? So the current job that I have is so far the best mix of the two worlds. So I make enough money. So currently I work at a university and I teach a variety of courses to university students. And it gives me enough money to provide. Well, see, I don't know that part yet. Right? You still don't exist, so I'm assuming I'll be able to provide for you, and I would bet most of my life that I will money on everything that I will be able to provide for you, because you make things happen, right? We make ends meet. It's just what we do. We're good at it. But I've never actually had to do it, so I'm excited to see how my life and our life, mine and Amy's life, will change once you exist, and we now have to provide for you too. I'm assuming the beginning stages will be a little bit easy because the only thing that you have to really spend money for is diapers. Because clothing, you wear like the same clothing a lot, or just it's easy to take care of you clothing wise. But then you like grow real quick, so it's like you have to buy clothing that you will grow out of in like 3 months or 6 months, whatever. Not too concerned about that, to be honest. So I make enough money at this job. I feel like I'll make enough money to take care of you while Amy's not working. Amy's going to probably go back to work as soon as she possibly can. That's just how she is, which is awesome. But then on the other side, what I specialize in, what I teach, what I specialize in, or the way in which I teach what I teach, is the part that satisfies me. And it so happens that it has something to do with you and what you're currently experiencing. So I specialize in teaching how to learn a language, in this case English, in a way that mirrors the way we learn languages naturally, or the very first language that we ever learned. So my students are embarking on learning English as a second language, and you are going to embark on learning both a hybrid version of English and Japanese as your first language, and I'm trying to use the process that you go through. I'm trying to develop a process for my students that is as close to the process that you're about to go through as possible. And so I'm really excited to see you go through your experiences. And so but there are going to be changes though, for sure. Your brain is of a significantly different shape than the brain of my students. You don't have as much control. In other words, concepts like choice don't exist to you in the same way that they exist to my students, right? And that's simply because you just haven't had enough experience. Your list of options isn't as in depth, isn't as robust as my students, and so you don't really have a choice because your main goal right now is just to not die, and so you will do your entire life is geared towards appearing or sounding and acting as similar to us as possible, to the point where you no longer where you're just one of us in every meaningful degree. And then once you get to that point, you start to develop your individuality. So you start to see how you are different from us. And then once you get to that, and then once you figure that out, then you try to marry those two worlds. You have your individual world and your so you have the world where you are only you, and you have the world where you're like everyone else, and then you try to make those two live and coexist. Language is designed to be learned in this process. So we first learn a language that allows us to be like everyone else around us, and then once we get to that point, we learn a language that allows us to be unique. And then once we get to that point, we learn a language that allows us to be unique amongst everyone around us. In other words, use our unique characteristics that we discovered to improve the environment wherein we currently exist. Current stage of second language acquisition, we don't start in that first stage. We don't start trying to sound like everyone around us. We skip that for some reason. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's because the majority of second language learners, my students and anyone resembling them, their mind is already at the stage where they're trying to fit this new language into the stage that they currently are at in their first language. So in their first language, they have their majority of them have their individual linguistic identity shaped. And so they are trying to carve out that identity in the location where they currently exist, right? So it's like the third stage. So they're trying to fit a second language in that stage, and our brains aren't designed to skip the two stages and start learning a new language on that third stage. It's unnatural, and so it's really difficult for the brain to progress that way. In fact, the more you progress that way, the more you start just imitating, the more you realize, whether it's subconscious, that you have to just start from scratch if you want to progress. So I'm really excited. I've designed a way of teaching in the classroom that takes us back to that first stage, and then the second stage, and then the third stage is when they're kind of like they're on their own, in a sense. You can only go so far in a classroom. So where you're currently at, linguistically speaking, is this is what I've experienced so far. Currently, you exist in Amy, your mother's belly, right? And you have recently acquired the ability to perceive sound, right? According to all the data, everything that me and Amy have read up on. And around the same time that you acquired this ability, around the same time that your auditory system developed, you started moving a lot. So the way I see that is you are perceiving sound via the womb, and you're reacting to that by moving. So this is the start of language, from my perspective. Typically, in a typical linguistic environment, one produces sound, another individual perceives it, and then they react by producing sound. In this case, you can't produce sound, and you won't be able to produce sound for a while. So the way you're reacting is through moving. So I think that's actually the fundamental. Is movement comes first, and then the production of sound. Obviously, we can see that. We can see that in how you are growing up, how you are developing right now. And so I think that also exists even after you start to produce sound. I think there is a nonverbal, namely bodily reacting way of perceiving language that subsedes the actual production of language. And if that is not in tune with one's environment, then the production of the language will be unnatural. Sometimes we can't avoid this due to the constantly and the quickly reshaping of environments that technology has allowed us. But if we can get what you're going through right now, if we can facilitate that amongst second language learners, then I think the production of sound would come much more smoothly, much more naturally, actually. So clearly, you are expressing your emotion through your body movements, and your emotions are really simple right now. You typically only move when you hear sound, but I'm assuming as you become more familiar with certain sounds, like my voice when I get home, right? You hear my voice. You're going to move. You're eventually going to develop a type of movement that's unique to that sound versus new sounds, right? And since you always hear your mother's voice because you're always with her, you have a unique type of movement that you produce when you hear Amy's voice over other people's voice. Say, for example, there's complete silence, and then you hear Amy's voice, your mom's voice. You're going to react with a unique kind of movement. Complete silence. Well, then while you're hearing your mom's voice, suddenly you hear my voice. You're going to react with another unique type of movement. Or pretend it's not me, say it's someone else you've never heard before. You're going to react with another unique type of movement. So your movement is the equivalent of the types of sounds that we produce in reaction to hearing, perceiving a sound, right? I think it's the exact same mechanic going on. And what I think is you're going to be born, right? And you're still going to produce these movements. But eventually, as you get older and older and older, you produce and you start producing sound with your your throat and whatnot. Those movements become more condensed, they become less bodily, and they become more facial. But the mechanic, the meaning still remains. So same way, like if I in complete silence, if I suddenly heard my mother's voice, I would produce a face that is unique to my mother's voice versus my father's, versus someone I don't know, versus Amy, versus everyone. And I think we can start classifying it. Like there's a friend face that I produce, there's a family face that I produce, there's a mother face that I produce, there's a wife face that I produce, and there'll soon be a child face that I produce. Oh, I saw your mother's face. I saw the type of face your mother produces when she sees a child. She held one of our friends here. They just recently had a child. You're going to be born in the same year as this, so you're going to get to know this child quite intimately, because this child was born in February and you're going to be born in August, so you're born in the same year, right? And eventually you're going to realize that if you're born in the same year, you're like best friends with someone who you're born in the same year. It's a shortcut to becoming really intimately close with someone if you're born in the same year. There's something about being born in the same year, regardless to at what point you realize this person's born in the same year as you, that just really makes you connect with people. Even if it's like tail ends of the year. Like I have a friend named Brian, he was born in December, I was born in February. We're still like same year, so we're like, bam, right? Really close friends. So anyways, you're going to get to know this person. His name's JJ, right? Your mom, Amy, was holding JJ, right? Held JJ for the first time last night. And I looked at her face while she was holding JJ, and I've never seen that type of face before. Never seen it. And so I am positive that that face was once a particular type of body movement that she was doing when she heard her mom's voice. I'm certain of it. There's no way I can prove this scientifically, but I don't want to. I don't need to. I think it's true, and I think it's not something that needs to be proven. So her face was being, the reaction to her mother's voice was condensed into the muscles of her face, or an emotion, she communicates with the muscles of her face, and she produced that for the first time I've ever seen when she was holding JJ, because I think JJ represents you. So she was holding you for the first time, and it was the most beautiful face I've ever seen. Her eyes, the way she looked at you, was stunning to me. Your mom already has naturally beautiful eyes, but those eyes, when looking at you, were a degree of beauty I've never seen before. And in that moment, I'm like, I cannot wait for you to exist. I've always been excited, but it was just this another layered excitement that I really can't wait. So your existence is going to create such an interesting. It's going to introduce such an interesting variable to our family, because we're going to have another, I'm going to have another individual that I say I love you to, every day, right? On top of that, I'm going to have an individual that is going through a process that I'm trying to understand for work purposes, right? Amy's going to have an individual, and this is the level that you won't understand for a while, but your grandmother doesn't exist. Your grandmother passed away a while ago, right? And so your grandmother was your mom's mother. So Amy's going to be a mother. In other words, Amy's going to be her mom, who passed away a long time ago. So that's another crazily beautiful thing, is she finally gets to fulfill the role that she lost in an untimely way. And you're providing that. So you will never understand the importance of your existence. But we will communicate it to you. So you will understand that you are important, but just you'll never understand how important you are, because, again, the way I plan on raising you is so that you don't, it's not going to be so that you understand how important we think you are. My only goal for your existence is that these 3 stages that I spelled out, my only goal is, first, that you belong to us, okay? And you're going to do that naturally, but I want to be a part of that, now that I'm aware that is the first stage. And then once you belong to us, which typically happens when you become, okay, see, I don't know this yet, but I'm not going to worry about numbers. Once you belong to us, then your next goal is to understand yourself, right? So develop yourself, find your voice, type of thing. And this is a scary part, because it's really, you can get lost here. You can succumb to the voices of others, right? And you can think that your voice, you can think that other people's voices who happen to be very eloquent or are easy, can really strike your emotional chords. You think that's your voice, right? And so my job is to help you discover your voice, and it's your voice. It exists, right? So that's the next thing. There's currently a social issue about that right now. It's called identity politics, and it's quite big. And so obviously I'm going to learn from this and make it my goal to help you find your own voice. But then once you find your own voice, the rest of your life becomes that of using this voice to exist anew in your current environment. And since your current environment is always going to be changing, because you are never going to stay in one spot forever, your natural inclinations are to explore and get to know other parts of this world and meet other types of people. Your current environment is always going to be changing, and with that, your voice is always going to be changing a little bit. And so that's why it's a lifelong effort, because you're always going to be revising yourself. Your environment's always going to be changing, so it's a constant effort of marrying these two worlds, and that's what makes life so endlessly beautiful and complicated. But there are base mechanics that govern this successful a successful journey under these parameters. And so I'm trying to understand that right now, and I plan on raising you with within those or with those precepts. So this upcoming semester is really exciting for me because first off, at the end of it, so within 4 months, you will now exist physically. That's crazy. So I have one more semester. In fact, you might exist physically before the semester's over. But also, I'm going to really put to the test the ideas that I just explained here, and see what actually works. Because I'm trying to emulate this in an environment. I want to create a bubble environment where this entire thing happens, but on a very micro level. And I feel like if the base mechanics that I understand or believe are at work should work, whether it's a bubble environment that exists only for 15 weeks, or an environment that exists for 15 years or one's entire life. I don't think mechanically speaking it changes, and so I'm testing my understanding of that this upcoming semester. So I'm going to come out of this with a lot of new knowledge and understanding of how I'm going to raise you. That's what's so exciting. I'm learning from my job how to raise you better, and I'm learning from you how to do my job better. It's this beautiful world. I don't know. It's just beautiful, and I don't express beauty in a normal way. So you may not think it, but it is beautiful. I love you.